You keep telling yourself you're being careful, that you're thinking things through, that you're waiting for the right time. But what if the thing controlling your life isn't logic? What if it's fear? Not obvious fear. Not the kind that makes your hands shake or your heart race. I'm talking about quieter fear. Smarter fear. The kind that learned how to disguise itself as productivity, perfectionism, overthinking, even self-awareness. And that's what makes it dangerous, because you don't call it fear. You call it being realistic. You say things like, I'm not ready yet. I need more clarity. I'll start when I feel confident. I'm still figuring things out. Sounds responsible, right? Maybe. But late at night, when everything gets quiet, you feel it. That uncomfortable tension in your chest. The weird feeling that life is moving. But you aren't. You watch other people launch things, apply for jobs, start businesses, leave relationships, take risks, and somehow, you're still thinking, still planning, still researching, still stuck between wanting more and doing nothing. And the strange part is, you're not lazy. That's what makes this so frustrating. Lazy people don't obsess this much. Lazy people don't spend hours analyzing every possible outcome. You care, a lot, maybe too much. You care so much about making the right move that you stop moving entirely. And this is where things start falling apart. Because most people think fear stops you with panic. It doesn't. Usually fear stops you with hesitation, tiny hesitation, harmless-looking hesitation. I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And one day you wake up and realize something terrifying. You didn't lose your life in one dramatic collapse. You lost it in delays, in postponements, in maybe laters, in invisible retreats nobody noticed, not even you. At first this feels harmless, skipping one hard conversation, avoiding one uncomfortable task, delaying one decision, opening your phone instead, checking messages again, watching another video about fixing your life instead of actually facing it. It feels small. But here's what nobody realizes. Every avoidance teaches your nervous system something. It teaches, this is dangerous. This discomfort must be escaped. This feeling cannot be handled. And your brain learns fast, really fast. Soon, you're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling attached to the task. Read that again. That distinction changes everything. Maybe you think you're procrastinating because the work is hard. Not exactly. Maybe you're procrastinating because starting triggers something deeper. Fear of failure, fear of judgment. Fear of being exposed, fear of trying and discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. Ouch. That one stings. Because now we're not talking about tasks anymore. We're talking about identity. And this is the part most people miss. The hidden fear controlling you usually isn't fear of failing. It's often fear of what failure would mean about you. There's a difference. Failure says, that attempt didn't work. Identity fear says, if I fail, maybe I'm not enough. Completely different. One hurts, the other feels existential. That's why you overprepare. That's why you delay launching. That's why you keep editing the same thing. That's why you restart routines every Monday like a tiny ritual of self-redemption. Gym plan, morning routine, new calendar, fresh notebook, new productivity app. This time will be different. Maybe it lasts 3 days, maybe 10. Then life happens. Energy drops. Motivation disappears. You miss one day. Then shame enters. And once shame enters, the real spiral begins. Because now you're not dealing with the original goal. Now you're dealing with self-judgment. I did it again. Why am I like this? Why can't I stay consistent? And that voice, that brutal internal narrator, starts sounding like truth. But it isn't truth. It's fear wearing your voice. Constantly. Here's the truth that changes everything. You do not become free by eliminating fear. You become free by changing your relationship with it. That sounds small. It isn't. Most people spend years trying to become fearless. They think confidence comes first, then action. That's backwards. Confidence is rarely the starting point. Action is. And this is where your perspective begins to shift. Fear isn't always the enemy. Sometimes fear is information. Sometimes it's your nervous system saying, "This matters." That's it. Not stop. Not run. Not you can't. Only, this matters. But somewhere along the way, you learn to interpret fear as a stop sign. So every time discomfort appears, you retreat. And every retreat strengthens the loop. Fear to avoidance, to temporary relief, to more fear. That's the hidden cycle. The relief feels good. For a moment, you avoid sending the message. Relief. You avoid making the decision. Relief. You avoid starting. Relief. But the strange part is, relief becomes addictive because your brain starts chasing comfort instead of truth, and that's when fear becomes control. Not because it overpowers you, because you obey it. Quietly, repeatedly, automatically. And this changes everything, because if fear is strengthened by avoidance, then it weakens through contact. Not massive heroic action. Contact. Tiny moments of non-escape, sitting in discomfort without immediately numbing it. Feeling uncertainty without rushing for reassurance. Taking one action before your brain approves. That's where power returns, not when fear disappears. When obedience disappears. Think about that. Maybe the strongest version of you isn't fearless. Maybe they still feel anxiety, still feel doubt, still hear the voice, but they no longer worship it. They hear fear and move anyway. That's different. That's real courage, not emotional invincibility, behavioral honesty. And this is the part most people miss. Your life is shaped less by what you feel, and more by what you do when those feelings arrive. Because feelings are weather. They move, they change, they lie sometimes. If you treat every feeling like a command, your life becomes emotional slavery. I don't feel ready, so you wait. I don't feel motivated, so you stop. I feel uncertain, so you retreat. But feelings were never designed to be dictators. They're signals, important signals. But still signals. You can feel fear and choose. You can feel doubt and choose. You can feel shame and choose. That realization is freedom. Because now the question changes. Instead of asking, "How do I stop feeling fear?" you ask, "What happens if I stop obeying it?" That question is dangerous, in the best possible way, because now you begin seeing the invisible prison. You see how often fear made your decisions, who you dated, who you avoided, what you didn't say, what dreams stayed private, how many versions of yourself never got a chance to exist. Sit with that. There may be entire identities inside you, buried under protection. Versions of you that never emerged because fear called them unsafe. The bold you, the honest you, the creative you, the disciplined you, the emotionally open you. The version that says what needs to be said. The version that stops performing. The version that stops shrinking. Fear didn't destroy them, it suppressed them. There's a difference, and suppression isn't permanent, which means they're still there, waiting, not for perfect confidence, not for the perfect moment, waiting for one decision, a different response. The next time fear speaks, pause, notice it, name it. Fear is here, not, I am fear. That distinction matters. You are not your fear. You are the awareness, noticing it. That separation gives you space, and space gives you choice. That's the shift. Because the hidden fear controlling you only stays powerful while invisible. Once seen, its spell weakens, not instantly, but steadily. You stop confusing fear with identity. You stop calling avoidance who I am. You stop saying, I'm an overthinker. I'm bad at consistency. I'm not disciplined. Maybe, or maybe. You've spent years rehearsing escape. Big difference. Behavior repeated feels like identity, but behavior can change. That means identity can change too. Slowly, quietly, through repeated evidence. One hard conversation, one honest boundary, one uncomfortable beginning, one day without running, then another, and eventually something strange happens. The fear that once controlled your life still speaks, but its voice gets quieter because your actions stop validating it. And one morning, you notice something subtle. You still feel discomfort, but it no longer owns you. That's freedom, not comfort. Freedom, huh? There's a difference. Comfort says, I feel safe. Freedom says, I can handle what comes. One depends on circumstances. The other depends on self-trust. And self-trust, that's what fear stole from you. Not success, not discipline, trust. The trust that you can survive discomfort. The trust that uncertainty won't break you. The trust that emotion can move through you without controlling you. Once that trust returned, everything changes. Because now life stops feeling like something happening to you. It becomes something you participate in, fully, honestly, courageously, even while afraid. Maybe that's what you needed to hear. Not that fear will vanish, but that fear doesn't get final authority. You do. And if this felt a little too real, maybe that's the part you shouldn't ignore. Maybe the hidden fear controlling you was never the real enemy. Maybe the real enemy was believing it was you.